What's up guys, I hope you're all having a great day today as always. In this video we're going to try and answer the question of, can a facehugger from Alien impregnate a necromorph from Dead Space? The way a facehugger works is by first latching onto an unfortunate host organism's face and then forcing a long tube down the throat which deposits a mutagenic substance to begin the development of a juvenile xenomorph known as a chestburster. While the facehugger is doing this, it will also secrete a neuromuscular toxin to quickly render the host unconscious and into a comatose state to prevent it struggling or even biting the facehugger. And to stop the host from suffocating, a pair of air sacs are located near the base of the tail which will circulate air down the tube and into the lungs. And finally, when the chestburster has developed enough, it will force its way out through the victim's chest. And a necromorph is a reanimated dead body hijacked and changed into an organic killing machine by either a marker or an infector. The resulting creatures are extremely aggressive and will attack any uninfected organism on sight. Their purpose is to then create more bodies so the marker infection can spread. So if the two came into contact with each other, would the facehugger impregnate the necromorph? Well, the first thing to answer would be, would the facehugger be able to attach itself in the first place? This would depend on the type of necromorph, as even when infecting one species, humans for example, there are still multiple forms they can take on. A single infected corpse can produce a slasher, a leaper, a puker, an infector, and many more. So it would have to be a type that still has its head relatively intact, and also it would have to be something that doesn't have any spitting attacks like pukers or spitters, obviously so it doesn't harm the facehugger before it can do its thing. I think the ideal necromorph would be a fodder type, as they still retain most of their human face. Although the next problem the facehugger would run into would be that a necromorph doesn't breathe, as they've been seen to survive the vacuum of space, so would it even be able to render it unconscious? Although the host doesn't necessarily have to be rendered comatose to be impregnated, but merely needs to be subdued so that it can insert its proboscis through the host's mouth. It could even be restrained to eliminate any chance of it harming the facehugger. A further question would be that since the resulting xenomorph will take traits from the host organism, would different necromorphs produce different xenomorphs? Say, would an infected slasher make one xenomorph and then an infected tripod make another? Well, since all these necromorphs all actually come from the same animal, a human in this case, the answer to this would be no, as the xenomorph would just be taking the human DNA from the necromorph. So if it could infect a necromorph, it will likely just resemble a drone, as it is still a human body at the end of the day. Even if one was born from a slasher and another from a lurker, they'd still result in the same xenomorph type. Except in the case of the necromorph being made from a non-human corpse, such as a Talvalantian necromorph, then yes, it would make a different xenomorph, as it would be using a Talvalantian's DNA. But in the end, although interesting to consider, none of these points really apply, as xenomorphs need living hosts to reproduce, not dead ones as is the case with necromorphs. When xenomorphs take victims to their hives for impregnation, this is why they keep them alive instead of killing them, and we only ever see facehuggers go for living organisms but not dead ones, as if it is dead, the chestburster wouldn't be fed the nutrients it needs to develop. So despite them being able to function, a necromorph at the end of the day is still a dead body and is more akin to a puppet being controlled than a living being. So no, I would say a facehugger would not be able to impregnate a necromorph. So even though I believe a facehugger would not impregnate a necromorph, it is still a really fun and interesting concept to think about and some of the crazy outcomes that could happen. Let us all know in the comments if you agree with this conclusion, or if you think a necroxenomorph is possible, then let us all know that as well, and with reasons why, and what you think it might look like. If you want to see my video I did about whether the opposite is possible, a marker turning a xenomorph, then you can find that here on screen now. As always, thank you for tuning in, remember to give me a like rating on the video as that does help a lot, and I will see you next time.